What is up, Giants fans? It's Rob and Donald. This is Nerding Out Sports, and we are here today to talk about the Giants' preseason victory over the New England Patriots in week number one. Some notes, some things to go over, stats, player evaluations, whatever you want to call it. We're going to break that stuff down. But first, there is some news to talk about out of camp today.
Ooh,
Azeez Ojulari was taken off the PUP list, so we'll be getting
good.
our second-round pick from a year ago back. Big Azeez, glad to see him back. Some bad news, though. Shane Lemieux is not going to be practicing. He's still dealing with that toe injury, and his status for week one is in jeopardy. Hopefully it's not too severe of an injury,
That
but our
sucks
offensive – the line is thinned.
He's important. He's important to the line.
Yeah, the line right now is thin because Izudu's dealing with some stuff, and the same thing goes for Jamil Douglas. So right now, I believe Brad Bredesen might be the left guard, if I'm not mistaken. The line depth is being tested early.
Well, what's happening with Glowinski? Isn't Glowinski right guard? Left guard would be Zudu, right?
Well, Izudu's questionable going into week two, so I don't know what his status is for the first game. I mean, by the time we get to the regular season, it could be all cleared out. But for now, I think it'd be Brad Bredesen. So we're dealing with some depth issues on the line, but hopefully it can sort itself out. Nothing too serious. But that's really all the major news coming out of camp. There was some thoughts about the offense did not look too good. Hopefully Alex, who I believe is there again today for the last camp with the fans, will have some breakdown of it when he gets back. But let's talk about the game, Donald. Anything that stood out to you player-wise?
Well, let's start with what did you think about the quarterbacks, first of all?
I thought Taylor looked good. DJ, what was he, 6 for 10, had about 60, was it 69, 70 yards?
Yeah.
And he did take a sack. I mean, we only saw DJ for a little bit. Tyrod got most of the reps with a lot of the second team, but I think it's an interesting battle. Nothing to really complain about. The touchdown from Taylor to Richie was really nice. It's a really nice throw, nice route, him getting open there. So, I mean, it's an interesting conversation to have about the quarterbacks. I don't think there's a competition. It's Jones's offense until he just looks brutal. But definitely good to see them both look good out there.
Yeah, I thought Jones looked okay. Better than I thought he would, considering it's his first preseason game. Obviously missed one throw in the flat to our fullback, but apart from that, I thought I can't really necessarily fault him. Although I'll have to be honest, I thought Tyrod Taylor ran the offense better, in my opinion. What did you think?
It seemed that way. It seemed like he had more command over the offense, and it just seemed like he was more comfortable there.
Yeah.
He does have a little more experience than Jones, and he has some ties there to Dable. So maybe that's what's got him in that little bit of a nudge over Jones right now. But we know it's going to be a learning process with Jones. If you expected Jones to come in game one drive to pick up the offense immediately, then you had expectations that were really unnecessarily high. So we all know it's going to be a learning process. We just got to hope that week by week, practice by practice, they get better at it. But to know that Taylor does seem to have a good command of the offense and was throwing the ball pretty well, that is a good sign.
Nice touchdown to Richie James, too.
Yes, Richie James looking very good in camp and had himself a nice preseason game as well. So I think overall we had a lot of positives, and there were definitely things that need to be worked on with the offense.
I liked Richie James. I think he's one of the standout candidates for me. I like his route running, and I like his hands, and he gets separation, and all the things that Galladay's not really been giving us. Not been really overly impressed with what I'm seeing from Kenny Galladay.
No, that's a big topic right now too, because we know his contract is crazy, and we got him under contract for a few more years. So he's necessary for the offense. If the offense is going to flow, because he's another threat, and we know what he can do. He can go up there and get it. But does that fit what Dable and Kafka are trying to run? And if he can't become a fit in the offense, it'd be 2 years with us that we just didn't see much of anything from Kenny G, which is concerning, but it's still very, very early. And again, learning process for everybody. But we do need him to really step up because we know if a couple of guys in the receiving room are not performing, this offense will not generate much of anything.
That's right. I did take some notes from the game, so we'll get that up in a second. But yeah, other ones that stood out to me, I liked Antonio Williams.
Yes,
I liked him a lot. I thought he looked good. Where is he in our running back depth chart right now?
I think right now with Breida working his way back, he's another one that could be on the comeback soon. Williams might be 2 or 3 behind Brightwell, but Williams had 9 carries to Brightwell's 7, 61 yards and a touchdown. Brightwell had 7 carries for 40. So you kind of juggle them right now because when Breida's back, he's the number 2. And I guess it's going to be a crunch as he gets that third running back spot. But I like Williams a lot.
So obviously going right back, there was a couple of things here. Colin Johnson, little inconsistent. So he was up the seam with a nice catch, made a couple of nice seam routes, nice catches with a seam route, but then he got that fumble, hit by Mitchell, fumble recovery by Butler. What did you think of Colin Johnson?
I think he's a body at this point. He had a good day statistically, but like you said, the fumble, it was there were positives and then there was that negative there. If you're thinking about wide receiver depth chart, where would he be? I mean, you have Golladay, you have Kadarius Toney, Wan'Dale's there, Sterling Shepard when he's healthy, Darius Slayton's still there, Richie James is going to make this team more likely as the kick returner. So does Colin Johnson.
Then there's also CJ Board, who's kind of a special teams guy.
So, I mean, Johnson is a guy because we know from last year, if you don't have enough receivers, you're not going to, you can't just rely on the run game all day. You have to be able to throw the ball. So Colin Johnson's a nice guy to have there, but I don't know if he makes the team over with all these other guys ahead of him. He could be.
I hope he doesn't make it over Richie James. James has stood out to me, but to be honest, Colin Johnson's having a much better camp than Golladay, but you're obviously not going to cut Golladay yet. But Johnson just seems to be a little quicker. His first step seems quicker. Galladay's really slow. Getting out, getting moving, and his first step's kind of slow.
Yeah, it seems like Galladay's play style might not be what they're trying to, what might not be in tune with what they're trying to run with this offense. They seem like I want those quick, shifty guys. Like Richie James is a guy that's actually perfect because much like Toney and Wan'Dale, he's very shifty and he can get around tackles and he's a return specialist mainly, but his quickness and his speed kind of benefit him more. Same thing for Colin Johnson. So Golladay, maybe he just doesn't fit the offense. But then again, we didn't use him well last year anyway. So I don't know if what they can possibly do because like you said, you're not letting him go. You're not going to drop him on the depth chart for someone like Colin Johnson or Richie James. You have to find a way to get him involved. But it's upsetting because it was a very big signing and we just hope that we can find a way to get him the ball like he's intended to, which is go up and get it, kind of deep route guy. But so far, it's been a learning process for him, and it's been a learning process for the quarterback. So, work in progress. I mean,
there was obviously there's one play where Jones threw it deep to him. Golladay took forever to gain any kind of separation. Now, it wasn't a well thrown ball, and it was really good coverage there from the Patriots secondary. But I think he gave up on that play too. You know what I mean? Like there was a chance. It was only like an arm's length away from him. Like he could have made that extra step, even could have dived for it. Could have made a bigger effort, but it looked like he just kind of gave up on it. Looks like he's kind of showing up Daniel Jones. I don't think he has any chemistry with Daniel Jones at all. And there's been numerous examples where he's not kind of gone that extra step for Jones. It looks like they don't have any chemistry together. I don't think that there's anything going there. I mean, Jones and Wan'Dale Robinson has good chemistry. Jones and Shepard and Slayton have good chemistry. Jones, possibly, and Tony have something going, judging by some of the brief, really good outings they had together last year, but nothing between him and Golladay at all. I think it's mostly on Golladay, but I don't think Jones has maybe put him in the best position to succeed. But
yeah, we were dealing with a lot of injuries from both of them last year. Jones was missing time, and Golladay missed some time as well. So that doesn't help. When guys are off the practice field and they can't practice at the same time, so you really can't build that rapport. But obviously, he was brought in here by the past regime to be that number one target. He was supposed to be Daniel Jones's Plaxico. What Plaxico was for Eli, that was supposed to be what Golladay was for Jones. But it should be. Exactly. He's got the skill set to be that guy, but they just haven't. It seems like they have not been on the field together too much to get that sort of chemistry together, because you see it right away when Sterling Shepard's out there. He knows where to throw him the ball. He's trustworthy. Yep. I mean, even Darius Slayton had a nice wheel route the other night. So there's chemistry there with Jones and all these other guys. But it just seems like you said, you have a really good point. It just seems like Golladay and Jones can't get that chemistry going, and makes you wonder where they're going to go with both of these guys moving forward, because Galladay's got a lot of money and it'd be very difficult to move him. And obviously Jones is on that, fourth year with the option most likely not getting picked up. So you wonder what's going to be for the future of these receivers and the quarterback.
So few things early in the first half. So obviously there was a couple of things that I was a little concerned about. Punt coverage was something that was concerning to me. For instance, both the return team and in coverage as well wasn't great. Like CJ Board let a punt bounce 61 yards from the 40 to the 18. That wasn't very good from CJ Board. Then there was a couple of really decent runs, not great punts from us, and our coverage wasn't too good. So that was something that kind of flagged up to me. But also, the refs missed a couple of things. Like, I think we should have had an intentional grounding. Ellerson Smith should have been credited with a safety sack, I thought. I thought they got away with that because I think we should have had a safety sack. I don't know what you thought about that.
It's preseason for the refs, too. They're getting back into the swing of things. I mean, we're not surprised, though. NFL referees, doesn't really matter what sport it is. We just seem to – referees are not very good. Umpires in baseball are not very good. So I'm not surprised that we're seeing early mistakes from the referees. Hopefully that can get cleaned up. But, and the punt coverage was not good, man.
No,
that's concerning.
Yeah.
If their special teams is rough like it was a year ago, then we're going to give up short field, and that's how opposing teams will score quickly. And we saw the Patriots get some pretty big plays on us. So, yeah,
I didn't love our punter at all. I didn't think our punter was up to much.
When was the last time we had a good punter? Steve Weatherford or maybe early Brad Wing? It just seems like
very early. It's not good. So I wasn't overly impressed with that. Obviously, not great return game, but I mean it's only special teams. It's not a huge deal in week one of preseason. So I'm just naming things that stood out to me. So yeah, I thought the rest missed a couple of things. I think we should have a face mask. I think it was a Tyrod Taylor got a face mask, but they didn't call it. They only gave it like a 5-yard and 10 illegal touching penalty or whatever. Should have been a face mask. Definitely should have had an intentional grounding call. I'm shocked that they got away with that. Even the commentators thought that it should have been intentional grounding. But that aside, most glaring concern to me was the secondary. That was the most glaring concern. So Evan got burned. Number 38 got burned. His name escapes me. And most importantly, Robinson got burned.
Yes, Aaron Robinson certainly looking like a work in progress as the right now number 2 on the depth chart. Which is concerning because he's got speed. I mean, we've seen him in practice keep up step for step with Wan'Dale Robinson. And, if we're going to use him on the outside, we need him to not get burnt. That's the simplest way to put it. You can't be giving up yards like that. And I believe Flott got hurt, actually. He's dealing with something as well post-game. So
great.
I know the already thin secondary is thinning out even more. But you're right, secondary was certainly concerning. The run defense, however, looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll have to worry about the run defense too much this year. The Patriots had 52 yards on the ground, 256 through the air. So clearly we know what the weakness right now is on this defense. Of course, still plenty of time for that to be righted, the ship to be righted with Wink. And we know what they're going to do. If they're going to give up yards, it's going to be through the air.
And Beavers had a big game.
Yes, he did. He looked really good.
Yeah, I think he's making a serious case to be a starter beside Blake Martinez.
Now, is Blake going to be ready for the season? Because he seems to be practicing. Obviously, he won't be playing, but I'm not sure about his status for the regular season. He seems to have a clean bill of health, but you never want to you don't want to rush him back, especially dealing with that. So, but Beavers is a guy that could be pushing for that starting spot. Like you said, he's looked really good in camp, and I was ecstatic when we took him. We got him as late as we did, so could be a steal there. We know how important having a good middle linebacker can be because we haven't had a really good one for a very long time. So Giants fans, we've been starving for it. Let's hope that Beavers so far one preseason game. We don't want to get too overexcited, but good signs there. Positive signs there for
Beavers. Beavers has had a great camp. I mean, he's just been on fire all camp long, so he's just carried it on at a week 1 of preseason. So got to feel good about that. He stood out to me. Saquon, a couple of wheel routes looked pretty good. A couple of nice runs. Brightwell was inconsistent at first. I was like, oh boy, he's getting blown up in the backfield, but then he made a couple of really nice carries. So the whole run game in general looked good. So I think the run blocking in general was pretty strong.
Evan Neal looks incredible in run blocking. It's the pass blocking he's going to have to work on, which I'm not concerned about at all because much like Andrew Thomas, we'll see him get better on a week-by-week basis. But for right now, we did see some very clean pockets as well for the quarterbacks, even though we're not seeing that in practice, but in game, we had some nice pockets, and the running lanes were opening up 177 yards on the ground in that game. So run blocking wise, we knew that was going to be the strength for this line. The thing they had to improve on most was pass blocking. So we're seeing that one game in, run blocking looks really good.
Yeah, so even Daniel Jones, he had one designed run. He looked assured. Tyrod Taylor used his legs pretty well too. I thought both quarterbacks looked really good. But yeah, in general, the protection was very sound. Apart from there was one time, I believe in the first quarter, Josh Uche, he broke through and penetrated right up the middle and blew Jones up. That wasn't good. There was kind of poor blocking up the middle. But that's where our concerns are right now because we've kind of got a problem at center. And obviously there's going to be a little bit of inconsistency at left guard with injuries and stuff like that. That was the only time that really jumped out to me, though.
Yeah, that was the one sack, I believe, of the game that we took. Jones took that, like you mentioned. So, again, like you said, we know that if there's going to be a concern for this line, it's going to be at center and left guard, which at full health, Lemieux is going to probably be your starter, or it could be Izudu, and maybe even Lemieux can move to center if Feliciano struggles.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, we know where the struggles are going to be. But the tackles have looked good, and Glowinski, we know what he's going to be. He's a solid starter, so we don't have too much to be concerned about. But overall, the offensive line looking good. The biggest question for me, though, is going to be the depth behind him, because we're very, very thin right now. So they have to have depth. You need to have those backups in place. Hopefully Matt Parrott gets healthy soon. Let's hope that Lemieux is back soon and Izudu as well. Nothing too serious there, because then the depth is a little bit better. If those guys are obviously healthy, your depth is not too concerning. It's still concerning a little bit, but not overly concerning.
Yeah, I think depth at the guard spot and secondary jumps out to me. I think we'll be fine at safety. I like Joseph Corker. I think he's got a chance of making the 53-man squad. I've liked him through camp. I think he did himself no harm so far. So I like him. I think Julian Love. I think obviously McKinney is going to be our play caller. I hear, which is a really good responsibility to give on him. Well earned. He's been awesome for us. So I think we're in good shape at safety. It's kind of just corner, which concerns me really.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about last week with Alex, that you could see a lot of Andrew Adams at safety, and then Julian Love could drop down to corner, maybe on the outside or in the slot. So we certainly have options there. If the cornerbacks need a little help, Julian Love is a guy that can go out there and help out, and you could see someone drop into the box. We have a lot of depth, I think, like you said, in the safety room. If there's two things you can really point out as concerns, it's cornerback and the inside of the offensive line, guard and center. So certainly things to work on there. But I think overall, we got to be pretty pleased with this performance for the first game of the preseason. I mean, obviously Graham Gano, not missing as usual. He's locks it down, gets the game-winning kick. So I think overall the good outweighs the bad.
Oh, of course. Well, we won. That's a really good start. Yeah, we won. I thought that we could have won by a bigger margin. I thought the refs kind of screwed us on a couple of calls. Like, for instance, what about the taunting call on Aaron Robinson? That was crazy. What did he do wrong? He just did that. And that's taunting? Are you kidding me?
Let's not forget John Mara was pretty in favor of these rules as well. So, yeah, you look at some of these penalties, and the thing, like, if that's getting called, if a guy going like this is getting called, then the league's in trouble, because then what can you really do? We're allowing teams to celebrate touchdowns all together, right? They can act like they're rowing a boat or whatever it is. Yep. But if a defender makes a big play and, says, hey, I got you there, and no, throw the flag, then we got a problem in the league, because what can the players do?
Exactly. See, the problem with that whole rule is it leaves far too much to interpretation. If you leave it to the ref's imagination as to what he believes is taunting, man, anything can be called taunting. And that's the truth. And that's what we got right there. All he did was kind of just do that. And it wasn't even directed at him. It was above him, but he was on the ground. And he wasn't on the ground doing that and laughing at him or anything like that. It was just did that. I mean, what is that? If that gets called, then we got a serious problem in the NFL.
I mean, you play street ball, right? Like, you do that when you make a big play defensively. Yeah. I don't know how much cornerback you've played. I know I don't play cornerback at all, and if I do, I'm probably getting burnt. But if I made a big play, I do the same thing. And there's no flags when you're playing on the street with your friends. So like you said, if that's open to the ref's interpretation, then we're in trouble, because the referees
But that's what happens in sports. There's always that competitive ribbing, and usually that drives you on. Just look at basketball.
Right.
That famous matchup between LeBron and Melo, I believe, both in their rookie years, and they both were guarding each other, and they were both scoring on each other. And they were jawing at each other the entire time. And it made both of them better. And it was a big thing. And that's what happens in basketball, right? You jaw at each other. You're like, okay, I got you that time. all right, but you don't have me this time, young blood, whatever. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of how it goes. That's sports, man. That's competition. That's when the batter is facing a pitcher. The batter's probably going to say a couple of words. The pitcher's probably going to say a couple of words too. The batter hits a home run. He drops his bat and kind of stares at the pitcher. That's just sports. It's competitive sports. That's what happens. It's that gets the competitive juices flowing. Football is as competitive and as physical a sport as there's ever been, and you're not allowed to have any jawing. A corner and a wide receiver kind of going at it a little bit, or I don't know. That's just wild to me. Completely wild.
This is one of the few times where I can pretend to be one of those get off my lawn types, because back in my day, we would have never have seen that get called because the players would, players could be throwing fists sometimes and they might not even get flagged. But if we're getting taunting calls for that's alarming. That's upsetting because you want to see these guys get, if you get the better of your opponent, you're going to want to say something. And if we're getting something as simple as doing this, which is just a T-pose basically, getting flagged for taunting, it's not fun. Let the players have a little fun because it gets everybody going, because something like that can pump a whole team up, and then you see a flag, it's just demoralizing. It's like, what am I allowed to do? What am I supposed to do? Just be like, hey, good try, because then it's just a participation trophy thing at that point. If I make a big play, I want to express myself a little bit. But if he's not doing it like you said, he's not looking down at the guy. He's not pointing at him. He's just saying incomplete. And it's annoying. It's so annoying.
It's wild. So that aside, we've got week 2 coming up pretty soon. Yes, what are you looking for in week 2?
I want to see better overall play from the offense. Passing game in general. I want to see Kenny Golladay improve. I want to see him get as many reps as we can get him in a preseason game, because I want that chemistry to improve. Whether it's with Taylor or with Jones, we need Kenny Golladay to be in sync with the quarterback. I want to see that happen. I don't think Tony will play, but I want to see a little more Wandale. I want to, just kind of give us a glimpse of what we can expect from this offense. And I want to see the offensive line just kind of stay the way they've been. It's been pretty solid thus far, one game in. Obviously, improvements needed a little bit here and there. But if from the offensive standpoint, I'm really looking at Golladay. I think we need to see him kind of show out a little bit, even in a preseason game. And defensively, secondary. It's got to be the secondary. And maybe get a little pass rush in there. I want to see if Kayvon can get in there. I'd like to see him get one, even if it's a preseason sack. I want to see him get back there and get to the quarterback.
I like Robinson. I do, even though he didn't have a great game. And my biggest critique with him is he's not got the quickest first step. He isn't the fastest. However, he's very competitive. And his coverage is usually very, very strong. He's one of the best outside corners we do have. Although there's not a lot of competition there, let's be honest. Apart from Adoree Jackson, it's kind of like it's kind of an open battle from there on. But I do like him, and I'm looking for him to have a better game. We kind of need him to be honest.
Yeah. The secondary, like we mentioned, we know what this defense is with Wink. It's going to be heavy blitz. We know we can stop the run. Our defensive front, we got Big Dex, we got Leonard Williams. They're going to do their job clogging the middles. I love Azeez and Kayvon on the outside. I think we'll be okay there. I think we're going to get to the quarterback a lot, which should help the secondary. But I do think that if we're going to get beat this year defensively, it's going to be attacking the secondary, maybe quick routes, maybe even over the top. If guys are getting burnt, that's obviously the biggest obvious statement you can make. That's a problem. But the secondary cornerbacks have to improve if we're going to surprise some people this year. But everything is going to be that work in progress. We're going to keep saying that because this is a rebuild, and we're looking at a lot of young guys to step up in roles they haven't played in before.
I think we should be excited about the defensive line. Leonard Williams and Big Dex, I think, have got a little partnership going. I spotted it in the practice I went to. There's a really good partnership going on, forming between the two of them. So them up the middle are going to be a serious threat. And Thibodeau, obviously, and Ojulari is going to be awesome. So I'm excited for the defensive line. We've already mentioned Beavers. We've mentioned that Blake Martinez, I think, will be back to full health very soon. I think linebacker is going to be pretty good. It's just it's really just a secondary. I think our defense is going to be good this year. I really do. Apart, if we can just shore up the second outside corner spot, then I think the defense is going to stand out and be middle of the pack or maybe a little bit better than that. And I think our defense is further along than our offense. I'll certainly say that.
Yeah, I agree with that statement for sure. It's a lot of it's going to be on Adoree Jackson, shutting down the number one receiver. But if we're going against a team like Dallas, who's got a lot of good receivers, and we're talking about division opponents, Philly's got a very fast offense. So we're going to have to, we need guys like Robinson, Darnay Holmes, when Flott's out there. We need these guys to be able to keep up, because even if we have a good pass rush, you get rid of the ball quickly. We've seen it time and time again. Yards after the catch can beat this defense time and time again. It's never a fun thing to see. Missed tackles, that's a big thing we have always had a problem with, at least in the last few years. So, we can't say it enough just how important the secondary getting right and improving week by week is imperative if this team's going to be in the middle of the pack defensively. I think we can be, because we were a top 10 defense a couple of years ago playing conservative zone. So if we're being aggressive and attacking, I think we can be middle of the pack or even better, maybe closer to that top 10 with a much better pass rush. So definitely some positives to look at, but you have to get that number 2 cornerback spot solidified. It's in a lot of weight on Aaron Robinson's shoulders, but like you said, very competitive. He should be able to take that next step to be better. We don't need him to be perfect, but just be good enough.
Are you worried about Kadarius Toney?
No, I'm not, because he was out there. There was a video on from Giants Twitter. Their page he was out on the field. I'm sure he's not going to be doing too much, but I think they're kind of taking it slow with him because they know he had the injury problems last year. If they rush him back one small misstep, one tiny tweak, he's not a huge guy, so he might be, I don't know if I want to say flimsy or injury prone, but we can't make a mistake with him because the offense we want to run relies so much on speed and guys moving around, and he's like the prototype for that. So they really have to be cautious with how they use him in practice and even getting him, but we need to see him in game as well because he has to be ready. So it's kind of like a mixed bag. I'm not too worried though.
I'm a little concerned. But so I've just got Jordan Ranon's update from an hour ago. Really rough day for Giants offense. Completing passes was a struggle. Daniel Jones went 6 of 20 with an interception. Really hard when you can't get easy completions to number one receiver. Golladay played plenty. Didn't catch a pass on 2 targets. Toney was out with injury.
Back to Kenny Golladay again. It can't be stated enough. He's very important to this offense, and he needs to get some sort of chemistry going fast because you can't have another big money player not performing.
I'm a little concerned. He's not proven that he's been healthy for any kind of stretch at all. If you can't even get through camp being healthy, it's not a great sign. He missed most of last year. Plus, there's questions about how committed he is to football. And that's been a question which has kind of plagued him since college. He loves his rap and stuff like that. Dable's got his work cut out for him to keep him interested. I think that's a fair way to say it. You need really good coaching to keep him interested, keep him involved. So I am concerned about Kadarius Toney because he's really important to this offense, especially if Golladay can't do anything. And from the looks of things, he can't do anything. So that's a bit of a concern. Obviously, the Jordan Raanan update isn't particularly good because Jordan Raanan tends to try and look at the positives lately, especially with Daniel Jones. He thinks Daniel Jones is going to have a big breakout year. But every time I see an update about Jones in practice, I know it's practice. It usually follows with bad day for Jones in practice. Bad day for Jones in practice. So, and I still believe that he was outshone by Tyrod Taylor in week 1.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, we've been talking about it since the offseason, how I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that if Jones struggles in the first few weeks, that Tyrod Taylor gets that job as a starting quarterback. They're not married to Daniel Jones because they didn't extend him. They didn't draft him. We know what their plans are. If the Giants struggle to win games this year and have another top 5 pick, they're going quarterback. It's a pretty decent draft class coming in. So I don't want to say they're going to be tanking, but they signed Tyrod Taylor to a 2-year deal for a reason. They want him around as that good backup quarterback. And if Jones is struggling, there's no reason to be like, okay, let's just see if we can get him to get better and better. You want to try to win games as well. And if Taylor gives you a better chance to win, you got to make the switch.
I agree with that. I mean, the way it's all been through practice and through week 1 is Jones is definitely going to be QB1. There's not even a question about it. They're going to give Jones every possibility to succeed. But by week 4 or 5, maybe, probably closer to 5 than week 4. If he's been bad all week 5 and up through week 5, and I can't see a scenario where he has long being the Giants' number 1 quarterback because Taylor's definitely been as good. I don't think there's been a massive difference between the two of them. He just obviously Jones has the better arm. He's got the far better upside. It's just we kind of know what Taylor has, and Taylor just looks like he's a little bit more efficient. He seems perfect in the Dable offense. His decision making is quicker. That is for sure. His decision making is a little quicker, and his accuracy is a little bit better in the short field. His deep ball isn't there, but that's not really a big part of Dable's offense necessarily.
Right. The quarterback, I don't even want to say controversy, but the quarterback scenario is going to be something that carries over into the regular season because we know once Jones has that first bad throw or that really just head-scratching interception that we've seen from him before, if he fumbles or whatever it might be, you're going to have people saying Tyrod Taylor because we had people calling for Tyrod Taylor to be the starter after the first preseason game. So they're already out there. So we know it's going to be something that spills over into the regular season. The best thing for Jones is that he can't look atrocious. If he just plays well enough week after week and gets better and shows progression with the rest of this offense in a new system, then there's no reason to make that benching. But if he's just flat out bad and we're losing because of him, again, because we've lost a lot of games because of quarterback play, then you have no reason to be like, let's just keep seeing what we have in him. Because at that point, you're losing games just for the sake of trying to see what this 4th-year quarterback can give you, whereas Tyrod Taylor might be better. So it's something that will spill over into the regular season. It's up to Daniel Jones to take that next step and to learn as fast as he can because Tyrod Taylor's there for a reason, and it won't surprise me if by week 5 or 6, if Taylor is in that starting spot.
We're lucky that we have such a good backup quarterback.
After Mike Glennon, yeah.
Oh my God. You know what I mean? It's like there's some competition and we're going to be okay. Even if it doesn't work out with Jones, I do think that Taylor will be fine, certainly through the year. So that's a good news. I read on Twitter that Joe Shane said in an interview that he was asked like which offensive players would he can build around. He said Saquon Barkley. Didn't mention Daniel Jones. That's interesting.
That is, because we know Barkley's free agent. We talked about it last week, the potential, or at least our thoughts on the potential if they try to move him this year. it seems like they love him a lot. I mean, for the first press conference, they made it clear they're trying to get Barkley involved every way possible because he is the most important guy in the offense because he can do it both in the passing game and the run game. So, I mean, if they are able to get him to a team-friendlier contract, it will not surprise me if he is back. And of course, he has to be 100%. He has to stay healthy. Because if we get rookie season Saquon, this offense will move the ball and we're going to score points.
I'm just wondering what kind of contract would work to allow us to still have room in free agency to re-sign guys like Xavier McKinney, Andrew Thomas, because I think that's going to be a focus on this new regime, re-signing important players, maybe possibly Dexter Lawrence. You got that. Then also you want to strengthen a bunch of areas around them. So I'm just wondering if there's a way in which you can offer Saquon Barkley a decent contract, because he's not the type that to make me think that he's going to accept a team-friendly deal. I think he's, I think that he's probably going to want something that representing the kind of star value that he's got.
Yeah, I mean, remember Alex mentioned it last week. We're going to have a lot of cap space, and Joe Shane doesn't necessarily go big in free agency. He's going to make smaller signings as kind of to fill out the roster spots, but we do have contracts that could be moved. There's going to be dead cap involved if we move a guy like Galladay. Leonard Williams' contract, I think, the year after he comes off the books, but they could move him next year if needed.
You can move him next year.
So so there's going to be ways to get more money involved, more cap space. So if Saquon balls out and they feel like they have to keep him around for this offense to be successful, whoever the quarterback is, then there are ways to free up some more cap space to get that done. So I'm not too concerned when it comes to the money. I really want to know what their plan is, because he's a guy that if he's playing well and the team isn't, you can get a pretty decent haul back for him. There's going to be a team that would like to add him to their offense. So I keep thinking about that trade scenario. I want him to stay. I like Barkley. I've always liked Barkley. I don't know what the upside is if you're re-signing a running back, because that's probably the most.
I'd bring up the question.
It's a very replaceable position.
Yeah, it's also very telling though that they didn't draft a quarterback. If they had any doubts about Saquon or they had any thoughts about the future, there was a ton of running backs that you could have gone in the 4th round, even the 5th round. And they passed on that opportunity. I was pissed at the time, but if they are really committed to Saquon Barkley and re-signing Saquon Barkley because he's going to be in his prime, he's going to be young, if he can stay healthy, then maybe their plan all along is to re-sign Saquon.
It could be. I mean, we're hearing great things about him at camp. All the reporters and everyone that's been there have been saying he looks explosive again. We didn't really see that from him in camp last year because he was working his way back and he seemed to be skittish in game. He seemed to be afraid. It seemed like he was running scared to take that hit, not try to make that extra move. And it also seems like he's kind of running in between the tackles more, in between the linemen more, I should say. Maybe he's becoming more of a north-south kind of guy and can use that shiftiness after he gets back or beyond the line of scrimmage. So maybe they're using him a little bit differently, but still using that skill set to their advantage, which, I mean, I love what Dable's done, what Dable's idea of this offense is. So that could be a possibility. They could see a lot of things with him in this offense and just trying to change his game a little bit to maximize what he can bring to you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So is there anything else you would like to discuss, or you think we've covered everything here?
I think we've covered the running back, quarterback, wide receiver. Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered stuff. What about tight end?
What did Alex say last week? Ricky Seals-Jones is in witness protection. Did we see him at all? I don't remember hearing his name get called.
Does he exist?
Does he out? Where is? It's like playing Where's Waldo. Where is Ricky Seals-Jones?
Where's Waldo?
Because he was not on the stat
sheet.
Where's Ricky? Where's Ricky? I don't think he played. He didn't show up on the stat sheet. I don't know if he dressed.
He ain't playing, man. I don't know where he is.
Bellinger had a target. Miarek had a target. I'm not seeing anything pointing towards Ricky Seals-Jones, so he could be MIA.
Not a heartening, considering he was probably our second most important signing after Tyrod Taylor. Maybe Glowinski. It's certainly the top three. It's not a great sign that he's had no involvement at all in anything, not even camp.
Let's hope he comes out of hiding soon. Man, who knows what's going on there? It's very interesting. It's like the fact that nobody really has an answer to it. Even the people at camp don't know where he is. Like all the fans, like Alex and everyone that he's going with, they don't see him. Where is the guy? It's a very strange case.
Anyway. I'm slightly getting concerned about the offense. I mean, not the offensive line. I think the offensive line is going to be good as long as they stay healthy. Wide receiver, we don't have a wide receiver one. That's a big issue because Golladay ain't playing anywhere near wide receiver one, and our wide receiver two, Tony, has not been involved. He's not been healthy, and there's questions about his motivation. So, a little concerned about wide receiver. Running back looks like it's going to be good. Tight end looks like we're not getting much from tight end. Bellinger's going to have to really ball out. There's definitely some concerns, I think.
Most of my concerns are with the offense. Receiver one is important, obviously. We need Tony healthy. We need Golladay to perform, really. That's the best way to put it, because if he's healthy in camp and playing in preseason games, we need him to perform, though, because we're hearing nothing but negative things. Even that one video that went all through Giants Twitter, it got huge amount. The one that I was shown last week by Alex from Ash Money on Twitter of that route, and it was it a bad route? Was it a bad throw? The Daniel Jones to Kenny Golladay pass. Everything involves Golladay here, and it's a lot of negative. So hopefully that turns around quickly. Because like we mentioned already in the show, we need him. And he's so important. He's getting paid to be that number one. I know not by this regime, but my God, we need him to step up if we're going to get around some of these other question marks like Tony when he's out. And Sterling Shepard as well, working his way back. So
problem with him is he just doesn't have the foot speed. He's got the catch radius. He's got big, good hands. But you need the ball to be very catchable for him, and he's not in the right same wavelength at all as his quarterback. So it puts a serious cap on estimations as to how far we can go. If your wide receiver game is that much of a question going into week 2 preseason, then it's not a great sign. It does kind of put a slight question as to how far we can go. If he was having a stronger camp, I'd be very, very sure that I think that we would have I think we'd be in and around 500 this year. I still do think we got a chance of 7 wins, 8 wins, something like that. I think we can do it, but we need something from our receivers. There can't be a question mark there.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes in week 2 against the Bengals. Hopefully we see better receiver play and hopefully some better cornerback play. Those are really the 2 things I'm going to be looking for the most, is the rapport with the receivers and the quarterback, and, of course, better secondary play overall. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully the Giants come away with another victory, because even though it's preseason, just like saying that a Giants win, I like seeing it because we haven't
always good to get in good habits. If you can bring in the W's, it brings good habits.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that will wrap it up for us here at Nerdin' Out Sports. I want to thank you all for watching, for listening. Even if I don't know if you're watching, if you're listening, whatever. Subscribe to the channel, of course. Just follow us on Twitter. Everything is in the description. And we will see you next time. Hopefully talk about another Giants victory and some improvements at practice. So we will say this. Goodbye. Let's go Giants. Peace out.